Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Fortifying Your Faith. My name is Haston Handley, and I'm so glad you can be with us today as we are going to be starting our discussion on a challenge to change our eyesight. And as we begin this, I want to start out by first of all saying I apologize for kind of getting behind on this season so far. There have just been random things pop up that have delayed recording. Just like this past week, or I guess 2 weeks, I haven't been able to talk. And so that kind of impedes being able to record. But hopefully there should be at least 2 episodes coming out each week until the end of this season. And so that way we can get caught up. So be on the lookout for the next episode, probably coming out at time of upload or this going live. It should be out in a few hours, might be out tomorrow, just to space it out some. But I also wanted to invite you to come out and to be with us at the Gather Together Conference in Murray, Kentucky. That's at the Spring Hill Suites from July 29th to August 2nd. It's our first conference. I believe there's 150 there's over 150 lessons throughout those few days as we're covering the book of Psalms and discussing every individual psalm. So we would love to have you come out and be a part of that with us. So plan on that. But as we are introducing this idea of changing our eyesight, we have to be honest with ourselves and realize that sometimes we get so caught up at what's right in front of us that we forget the bigger picture. There are plenty of times we forget to actually look around and to see the blessings that God has given us, to actually be able to see all of these different times that we might be so focused on just what's in front of us that we actually don't notice maybe someone that's seeking the gospel. Maybe we don't notice a problem within our own lives. Perhaps we don't even really see God's blessings that are right in front of us. If we don't fix our eyesight, I guess this is the biggest point I want us to make. If we don't fix our eyesight, then we can have this major problem to where we're not actually looking towards the goal. I want us to spend a few minutes this morning, evening, whatever time you're listening to this, by looking at Hebrews chapter 12. We're going to start in verse 1 and spend a few minutes here. In fact, probably spend most of our time here. But as we get the context, Hebrews chapter 11 is just concluding, discussing all of these great men and women of faith throughout the Old Testament, who put their faith into action. And looking at that chapter, you see many different phrases like Abraham and Sarah, who were looking for a city which didn't have an earthly foundation. You have all of these that are looking forward to a promise. Verse 39, they had not received that promise. Verse 40, but God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. We have that realization of the blessing that God has given us. What does that have to do with eyesight? Well, verse 1 of chapter 12 is exactly what this has to do. He says, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight, and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. You see, if we are not actually looking towards Jesus, if we're not actually focusing on Jesus, then we have a major problem. We are missing what we're supposed to be seeing. You see, sometimes we need spiritual glasses because we become so short-sighted that we miss the big picture. We miss the thing that should be a major impact on our lives. We miss Christ's teaching. I also want us to look at a second passage. So disregard that about talking about Hebrews chapter 12 for the whole duration of this lesson. I want us to look at perhaps a sneak peek of one of the later episodes, but let's look at Luke 15. Beginning in verse 4, it says, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after that which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say unto you that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than 99 just persons which need no repentance." A lot of times we look at this parable and discuss the shepherd, the one who is seeking to go and find that sheep at all cost. But sometimes we have to admit we're more like the sheep than we are the shepherd. If we don't fix our eyesight, we become more short-sighted to the extent that we're more willing to look at what's right in front of our nose. We become as short-sighted as sheep that's just looking for that next blade of grass and that next meal and that next promotion, that next weekend, that next day off that we get to rejoice and enjoy our time together, but we become short-sighted. We miss the forest for the trees. We're looking at the next problem rather than looking forward and actually looking forward to our heavenly home. We sometimes objectively need to address our eyesight and actually do what the Hebrew author is telling us, looking to Jesus, not just metaphorically, but in our mind's eye, actually setting our goal on heaven. You see, if you're trying to get into running, a lot of times you can start pacing yourself or setting short goals. If you go out and run, maybe you say, I'm going to run to that mailbox. And then by the time you get to that mailbox, you say, well, I have a little more gas. I can get to the next driveway up. And then you get there, and then you push a little further. We have to be willing to look at our end goal far before we get distracted by something that's closer, or get distracted by something that's uncomfortable so that we want to quit. We have to be willing to look to Jesus, who has already set the pace, who has already lived his life, who has already given us a way by which we can know how to get to heaven. We just have to be willing to fix our eyesight. So in our next episode, we are going to sit down and discuss the ability to see God's blessings in our lives. But until then, let's continue studying, let's continue growing, so that we can all fortify our faith.